Welcome to the Tabletop Gaming Magazine podcast. I'm Chris Eggett, the editor of the magazine.
And I'm Charlie Pettit, the online editor.
And we're here today to have a party.
Woo!
We're
been allowed for a while.
Exactly. We might be allowed soon-ish.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
News depending. But when we're ready for it, we've got the perfect issue for those who want to have a party, because we are counting down the best, the top 50, the best 50 best party.
Where was that sentence going?
I don't know. The 50 best party games ever.
There we go.
Yeah. We used as you know, Charlie, we use a really scientific system for not only nominating them but also ranking them. And there'll be absolutely no arguments to come from the list that we're publishing.
I am perfectly pleased with saying yes, no, the ranking was done by Chris. So please direct all complaints for the attention of Chris Eggett. Because
but it was mostly done by recommendations from our writers. So we've got, this is a something like a 22-page piece with 15 or 16 contributors throwing the hat into the ring on the games they like, and it's roughly ordered by the ones that everyone wants to write about to the ones people wanted to include but not everyone wanted to write about. So we've got some cool weird stuff in there, some stuff that's going to make you angry, and it's going to be good, so argue with us online.
We also accept direct emails and post, so don't tell everyone to go online to complain, because then I'm the one that has to respond to people and go, no, I know, I fully agree. Yeah. This should have been number one. Yes, I totally agree with you. Blame Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. So hopefully you'll enjoy diving into that. We're not going to reveal what number one is in this podcast. You will have to watch Charlie's upcoming videos, or even buy the magazine.
Buy the magazine.
Pick up the truth about what is the best party game ever.
To be fair, I don't think I have issues with number one.
No, I don't think anyone does, because literally everyone who I asked would they like to write something about a party game of like their favourite party game. Literally everyone came back and said, I'd like to write about this one.
I think generally you can't argue that it's up there.
No.
I think like it makes sense. It's just like the top 10. It's such a personal question as well.
Top
like the top 10, I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that one.
Yes. One of the other little features we had in the magazine to sort of prime you for that is we did I've titled a party game safari.
Yes.
Where we apply the rigorous systems and cataloguing that we did as we uncovered ancient bones of parties from the past and put them together with cave drawings of things that people whispered to each other around a table, getting it slightly wrong each time. And we've put them together in a little list of just like the kind of party games you can see out in the wild. And so we've got a little tour of that, and we might mention a couple now.
Yeah.
Do you want to start? Kick us off with one.
I mean, we've entitled it Lying to Your Friends games, which I think is my favourite genre.
Yes. Hands
down. Because it leaks into the sort of social deduction side of things. I love it. Yeah. These are like my jam kind of games. So anything where someone's given a role but nobody else knows what that role is, and you're having to try and work out who it is. Are you the murderer? Are you not? Like, did you do it? Are you just saying that because you're trying to make me think this? I love these games, absolutely love them, from like Skull all the way across to like Secret Hitler, which I appreciate. I've been listening to a lot about it. The topic is divisive, but if you could re-theme it, incredible game. Like really
it's divisive because people don't like secrets, do they?
Exactly that. But with a retheme, it's a really solid game, and I love it. Just because the thing is, across the group of people, you sort of know which ones you can read really quickly. Mm-hmm. So in my two separate gaming groups, I know that like eyes up, you can look at people and go, "You're the one. You're hiding something. I can tell straight away from your face." And then you have the other friends who are too good. And you really don't know until the end what they're thinking, and half the time that's because they don't know what they're doing, and they're just like, cool, I'll take this. Are you lying? And it's like, don't know. Have you checked your cards? Well, yeah. Makes you the best liar, but it's really difficult to tell.
In fact, we've got a little interview with James Vaughan, about from Big Potato on his favourite party games, and also how to make the perfect party game with Big Potato. But he just mentions coup, and he just said basically any time I can lie to my friends' faces, I'm in,
Yes.
and so are we.
Yeah.
Really.
Sliver in a heart, like, it's the best part. I just think it's just always really funny to either work out that someone was lying to you and that they did so really effectively, or like they're really earnest, like, yeah, no, I think it could be this, was a total lie when you've then used that information to turn on somebody else and you sit there smug like, I did that.
It's probably my favourite style of party game.
Yeah, I'm all for
Any
it.
hidden information.
Yeah.
Like I'm all over it. I think like most games should have hidden information in them somewhere. Even things like even if you're making a Euro game right now, why not hide the points till the end? That's the thing I'm going to say to you. Hide that information. I think that's better. So one of the things I like particularly as well is team games, which is games that you play in a team and that sort of bond you directly with someone else, and your success and failure all depends on whether you're going to be able to complete the tasks or communicate properly with each other in the same team. Yeah, so things like 20-Second Showdown, which is a very silly game all about completing tasks as a team, doing things like touching the nearest fern or wheelbarrowing someone through the nearest doorway, which in itself can be it's its own silly thing. But like when you and a buddy are like really into the game and you have the wheelbarrow thing comes up, watching your friend immediately drop as if he's about to do like the worm, but actually you're going to grab his legs and you're immediately going to dash towards that doorway. You know, concussions or not, that's pretty good. And also, I think it's really good for like bonding with people.
Yes, because you don't have time to think to be awkward.
That's it.
You just got to get on with it, and then you're like, now we're friends.
I mean, even things like Pictionary, like when you're in a team with people you don't know and realizing like you've got so much in common, that's always really nice, and you sort of make a connection there. Really nicely. Anyway, so that's a little taste of our party game safari. So what else do we have in the magazine? I'll tell you. We have maybe one of my favourite game columns by the fabulous Annie Norman.
She's great.
Who creates? I think we spoke about it on the last podcast actually. She creates gerbils and hamsters. As well as lots of
Not guinea pigs.
I think they are guinea pigs. You're right. Sorry. She creates like fabulous female miniatures.
Yeah.
Through all periods of history. Lots of them realistic, some of them unrealistic, but it's the largest range in the world or something like that of lady miniatures.
She does it through Bad Squiddo.
It's Bad Squiddo,
but she's worth checking out. So the website itself is brilliant because you can get all your miniatures and stuff, but she's also really great on social media. Like she's built a proper nice community to be involved with, and I think she still streams every Sunday. She certainly was for a little while because I tuned into quite a few. So she's very witty to talk to or to listen to in my thing, but obviously.
Well, she's extremely funny in this. So the game she picks is Survive, Escape from Atlantis, which is like one of my favourite games, mainly because it's got some destructive element to it, and I think that's just something that works for me. She just discusses that, talks about an Atlantean swirler, if you know what that is. No one does.
Nope.
And yeah, so that's Annie.
I think the best part of that though was that there's a part in it where she describes moving around the I want to say miniatures but not miniatures, moving around the icons that are different creatures and the noises that she chooses to make as they get moved around, which is great in print. And then you read it out to me when you received it because you were giggling away when you got it. And I was like, what is it? These are the noises, the grr and the arr, and then the I can't even remember what they were, but it was just like your delight was what made that.
I'm really pleased with it. I think it's maybe one of my favourites we've had in. So yeah. Also, another favourite is our micro game of the month. This month is by the lovely and incredibly talented Mike Hutchinson of Gaslands and A Billion Suns fame. He challenged himself. I don't know if you saw the pitch battle.
Yep, Rule of Carnage.
Rule of Carnage pitch battle video that we had up on our spring showcase show earlier in the year. One of the ideas that was pitched was a non-combat skirmish game. And he's gone and done it, and we're printing it in the magazine.
Woo!
It's really funny.
He does a regular thing with so that Rule of Carnage is Glenn Ford and Mike Hutchison, and it's such a fun watch because they're very clearly like they talk about the industry, but they're very clearly mates at the same time. So they'll take the mickey out of each other and they'll have a bit of banter, and it's a really nice watch anyway. So we've got a couple of episodes of it up on our YouTube channel, but they've now got their own YouTube channel. I can't remember if it's Rule of Carnage or Rules of Carnage, but either way, search and it will come up.
I think it's Rule.
But yeah, you can then go see that and various other bits that they've done, because they're just a really fun watch. They're just really nice to see together.
They're just very entertaining. They sort of bounce off each other very nicely. And then our painting guide is the Bloodborne painting guide. We've got an upcoming podcast for you to listen to while you paint your Bloodborne miniatures using our guide.
I play a game with myself because I'm not a painter. So when I then look through the painting guide to check for like general proofing, I try and work out what the colour is without googling it. Mm-hmm. So some of them you're like, I don't know, blah 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 grey, and you're like, that's a grey, I can do that. And then they've got something really ridiculous like I can't even think of an example now. I'm starting a list of them.
Because they're all Citadel ones. We use it. That's our sort of standard. So it will likely be something like,
See, as soon as you try and think of it.
Well, I was going to do one, but it's definitely wrong. So it would be like flesh of corn.
Flesh of corn.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess green.
No, that'd be like probably red.
What?
Because corn's like the blood god in
I've been watching Dimension 20, so I just think of the corn cuties and think actual corn. So maybe not that case. But you see what I mean? Like, what's the one so? I wrote them down somewhere and I can't find them now. But yeah, no, I try and guess what they are, and then I look at the picture and I'm like, well, good job I'm not painting, because that would have ended disastrously. Did you not want to be pink? Why not? I thought that's what it was telling me. But no, they're very good. They're the kind of thing I aspire to do.
Yeah.
But I'm too scared I'd mess it up. To be honest. So.
I mean, this is going to be one of those painting guides that I might actually do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, might have to make the colours up, mix my own colours, but.
Whereas I've immediately wussed out. So I got to take a look at the Raptor Riders for the Wadroon, which is all part of Conquest and Parabellum, and they're absolutely fabulous, and I'm so excited by them. But there's someone in the office that works there that's very good at painting, very good at putting them all together, and I immediately was just like, do you want to do these for me? That would be great. So I'm hoping he'll return at some point with...
This is a shout out to Luke.
Shout out to Luke. He does a glorious job. We think. I've never seen it, but I believe he does.
His painting is very, very good, and he was quite excited about the... He said the texture's quite good, which is quite high praise.
Yeah, he made a whole thing about the... Yeah, I don't know. He explained it all to me, and I agree that they're very good quality and they're very like in depth and stuff. But he explained to me his painting techniques, and I am always baffled. Like, I think they sound glorious, but I'm like, how do you know to do that? Like, the foundation stuff, fine, but he's like, and then I'll just put light here, and then I'll add this in for shadowing, and I'll put that, and I'm like, how do you know where to... I can't do it. So yes, shout out to Luke, who will hopefully appear at work at some point with some Raptor Riders that I can do an Annie Norman and rawr.
So yeah, and we've got some other stuff in the issue, I think.
Yeah, there's
some stuff. I mean, there's this huge thing.
Odd.
There's this huge thing about party games that I've glossed over because I don't want to give it all away. I want you to go buy the magazine and then get absolutely furious with me and tweet Charlie.
Oh my god! Again, please address all tweets FAO Chris. Save me from this, because I know when I do the videos, I'm going to put a disclaimer at the beginning of each video and just be like, this is Chris's list. Just be aware. I can imagine the anger I'm going to receive for not including things or
Absolutely.
stuff in. It's for me, it's great because I love party games. So doing the top 50 meant I got to go through and go, oh, actually, I quite want to play that. That sounds great. So I've got a little wish list, and I love that we've included a tick list at the end.
Yes.
Love that. So I'm going to be sat there with my little pen when I get my copy and like tick off. I've done this one, and then highlighting. We want these ones.
That's it. Yes, it's the Argos catalogue version of.
Yes.
In fact, it's actually quite a good.
Yes.
It's actually quite a good use of it. I should have probably started with that, to be honest.
I once worked at Argos. That's good.
Yeah.
That'd be good nostalgia. I'll get a little pen. I'll have to get the little pencil to do it in.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can't have the little pens anymore because they went ages ago. But the little pencils are still important. Let's give those a little tick. And circle them. Distribute it as a wish list. That's what you're supposed to do, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Can I have these for Christmas, please?
And we have a load of reviews like we always do.
Yeah.
But most importantly, we've got a really big, juicy 2-page review of Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile.
I so want to play this game.
Which is one of my most anticipated games of the year. We did a cover on it last year, but I'm incredibly excited about it. My copy is bobbing in the sea somewhere at the moment, so I'm not quite sure when that's going to land on my desk, but that's fine, because Dan Jolin, the wonderful Dan Jolin, has given it a spin several times because it is a legacy game, kind of legacy game anyway, and written up a interesting review in the end. Yeah,
really interesting. I think I said to you, I was like, I read through the review and I feel almost conflicted about it because spoiler alert, it got a must play, which means we're giving it the best we possibly can.
Absolutely.
But there was more caveats to it than I anticipated for what we generally see in a must play game. Generally, if you're rating must play, it's because you're like, oh my god, you have to play this. This is amazing. Here's all the reasons why it's absolutely astonishing and exactly why everybody should be playing it. Whereas this was a little bit more maybe hesitant because there are bits that people won't like in terms of it's not for everyone, but for those it's a massive must play.
Yeah, it's go early. It was always going to be a game for gamers.
Yeah.
There was never going to be a chance of it being there was never going to be number one on our best 50 best party games of all time ever. It was never going to quite be there because it was always going to be something very deep and complex and really interesting. But yes, Dan sort of is a strange review just because it does come out as it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Here's exactly why. But also, not everyone is going to want it in their collection. But for those of us who are interested in games, it's absolutely must have a copy at some point in your life. For those who don't know, it's a kind of legacy game, kind of exploration, empire building sort of game-ish, quite abstract. One person starts as the Chancellor, who is in control of the world, and it is up to the other players to try and wrestle that control from them through either completing visions, which are secret until a point where they're revealed, and then everyone gets a couple of turns to try and scupper their plans through military might and all the rest of it. But the Chancellor obviously has so many more advantages from being in power. Also, the Chancellor can offer things like citizenship to other players, meaning they sort of join the Chancellor's side and they kind of win as well, unless they're really clever, in which case they can topple the Chancellor from that point as well. It sounds like the perfect game for playing over and over again with maybe the same group of people or the same rotating group of people, because what you do is at the end of the game you put the world away in a certain order based on what's been retained, depending who won. The next game starts with the way the last player won, so there's an oath that they take, and that's the starting requirement for that winner. So your win condition changes every time you play it, but then you may add cards and remove cards from the deck the event deck and the location deck and that sort of thing, to be able to mean the next time you play it's going to be slightly different, but the world sort of changes around you as well. And it really reminds. I'll tell you what it really reminds me of. It really reminds me of, and this is a weird throwback, and there's going to be like 3 people that know this, but the Sega used to have this concept of something called A-Life, which is artificial life in some of their 3D games, where things could grow organically in the background while you were doing this. Depending how you interacted with the world, it would change, and how you performed generally in the games, it would change like the world around you as you see them, which is cool. And it's kind of like that. It's got kind of sort of persistence to it, which I'm absolutely in love with, and I think Dan might be too.
Yeah. Well, you gave it a must play, so I should hope so.
I hope so. Yeah. But yeah. So that's probably the biggest review in the issue. We've also got a review of the new D&D release.
Yes.
Which I'm going to say wrong because I've been pluralising parts of it completely wrongly. So it's Van Richten's Guide to Raven Loft.
Yes.
That's it. Sometimes
that's definitely not what you called it on the flat plat, though.
No, it was Raven's Loft and Von Richten.
I think you called it something like Von Richten's Loft on the flat plat. Just there was like a, you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we did. We've got a review of that in the issue.
That looks very cool.
Plus a bunch of other things.
They're busy right now. They've got
a
lot coming.
Yeah.
Like they've got 2 new books coming out. They've got the Dark Alliance coming out. That's the video game. They've got a DM's challenge. That's going to be. I'm fascinated to see how they're going to run that. That's like a competition to find the best DM.
Yeah.
Which they'll then announce at D&D Live. But they're sort of like, they're not being particularly specific about what each stage entails. So I'm quite fascinated as to how that'd be. And I've given a nudge to my DM to be like, are you going to do it?
I think you should enter.
Are you going to do it? Oh, what, with my experience of DMing Magical Kitty Save the World?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, why not?
Okay.
It's totally translatable.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's interesting. I do like competitions like that. Ideas of some sort of like, DM off.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Fascinated.
Yeah. I think it's just player votes, isn't it?
I would imagine so. Yeah. But then what challenges are you going to? How are you going to test DM? Like, how do you make one scenario better than the other? Yeah. I don't know. I'm hoping, like they've said, it's going to be almost like a. I can't remember how they explained it, but I came away thinking it was going to be almost like a reality show style competition, like the X Factor or Britain's Got Talent, but not, because obviously it's a D&D spin. It's going to be totally different. But in terms of like stages and progressions and challenges and things that they have to do, though that side of things is there. So I don't know how much of it they're going to not televise, but like put on YouTube for us to watch. I don't think the early stages are, because it's just an open call to anyone. Yeah. So that's gonna get crowded. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really interested to see that. I think that'll be really fun to watch. Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. There's lots of cool D&D stuff coming. New Critical Role series as well. Yeah. Oh, what is it called? I've completely forgotten. Exandria Unlimited. Exandria something. It looks super cool. They've got a new DM in, and she looks epic. But it's also only it's only 8 episodes. Mm-hmm. So like, I've never fully managed to get into Critical Role because the commitment is there are so many episodes. Yeah. There's so much time. Whereas this is only 8 episodes, so I'm like, great, I'll definitely tune into this one, get a feel for it, and then sort of look back. But yeah, so Matt Mercer is now going to be the player. Nice. And not the DM, which I think is... He's done it before, like I've seen him in other things, but it's quite nice to know. Exandria Unlimited. Cool. So I knew it was something like that. Yeah. But yeah, that looks very cool. Yeah. I'm very excited about that. It's going to be great. Yeah. We're excited about all this new D&D stuff. And I should mention that we have a D&D scenario coming in the summer holiday issue of the magazine. Woohoo! Which is hopefully dropping mid-July. Yeah. Sort of in time for some holidays. It's going to go out to all the kids. Yeah? So this is our free issue that we put out digitally, originally planned to be distributed amongst educational facilities, which makes it sound kind of scary, but actually I just mean schools. Yeah. It's for secondary school
kids. It's aimed at getting people of the education variety into board games in a very cheap and cheerful way. There's lots of tools for getting started. We usually have a little war game in there. We have lots of our micro games from issues past. We have, as I say, we have a D&D scenario in this issue, and it's going to be great.
Just stuff to do, isn't it?
It's just stuff to do, and it's not all for kids. You can even read it as an adult.
Oh, I enjoyed the last one.
It was really good.
I really enjoyed that.
It's legitimately really good. And it's all done. There's no charge. It's completely free.
Yep, just a download.
Everyone who's contributing to it is doing it just for the love of the game. They're just
for funsies.
And there's, we just do it as an extra bit of effort on our part as well. So, we're hoping to get that spread out as well. And I'm just going to very quickly talk about one of my reviews.
Oh, go
on. Which is the Vienna Connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should have known this was coming.
Yeah. So this is the new,
very pleased with this.
the new Portal Games detective system game. But this time you're a spy, and it's spy times, by which I mean the Cold War, and
peak spy time.
It is pretty much peak spy time. You're a bunch of spies, and you're doing some spying in like Germany and the Czech Republic and places like that in Eastern Europe, and it's really, really good. Maybe my favourite of their detective system games so far. It's the one thing I'd say before anything is you don't get the kind of closure you get on the detective cases in like season 1. Like season 1 kind of tells you how you did at the end of your case. You kind of know whether you locked up the wrong person, as I did,
oh no,
and that sort of thing. Like you know you've done bad. This, because it's an ongoing campaign across 4 or 5 missions. You are kind of like adding bits to the story, and you have to work out what the story is, because that's the whole point. You have to go gather intelligence, work out what's going on, and then like take actions on those things in the usual detective-y way of like you spend a couple of resources to like change things. When you go to a certain area, you'll cross out or tick off boxes representing like you spending, in this case you're spending exposure. In the detective games you're spending your like time before the case goes cold, and apart from a few typos and a slight vagueness for people who really want like to know whether they did good or not, it's fabulous because it doesn't take itself too seriously. People are like they're smoking like 15 cigarettes at a time. They're doing all sorts of spy shit, and it's just like the atmosphere is perfect. It's almost none of it is digital as well, which it doesn't really matter because the digital implementation of the detective games is very, very good. But in this case, you are only entering codes to say which bits of information you've unlocked for the story to continue for your campaign. That's all that is, and that just means that instead of looking up things in the database and doing things like video, because obviously we're in the Cold War, the quality of recordings and things is not quite there. There isn't an internet in quite the same way, although there's sort of like nods towards it, interestingly, in the story. You get this big wodge of paper. You get like 100 sheets of files that you look at, and so your table that you're playing at with your buddies is just covered in case files, and it looks legit, and you feel like an actual spy or an actual detective, like going through the information and stuff like that. The missions are massively varied. They've got things like you have missions where you like very clearly or to me it felt like it, very clearly you're like on the ground, you're going places, you're talking to people, you're probably going to get beaten up by someone, but you're going to like get a lead from it, sort of thing. It's fabulous. But then there's also missions where you have where you're kind of just listening to the radio, which sounds very stupid, but actually you're picking up all this intelligence and then trying to piece things together, like you're trying to work out who these people are, because they were using code names. Obviously, people using code names, and that's as fun. That's as fun as the time you I'm pretty sure that we accidentally recruited a gangster into the CIA, which is not unusual for the CIA, but it's probably not very helpful for us winning the game. All of this stuff is just so open-ended feeling, and the game says you should play each case in 60 minutes or something like that. That's the usual runtime. We played the first case for 3 hours because we were just absolutely hammering through every little piece of the game. There's because you can take directions from things like he has a strong accent, she has a vague German accent, and the thing is, that piece of information there tells you that that person has an accent from an Austrian accent, whereas she's a foreigner in the country you're in.
Right.
And so you can pick up things like that and run with that thread, and then that actually takes you somewhere. Because you made the connection without having to put some numbers into a database. It's just so good. Anyway, so I really recommend the Vienna Connection. So I think that's just about it.
I think that's it.
Yeah. So buy the magazine.
Buy the magazine.
Subscribe to us on YouTube.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube.
If you want to know what the party games are that you should be playing, this is the one.
Yeah. Tick box included.
Tick box included, yeah. You can literally tick all the boxes.
You can.
Probably.
Take you a while, there's a lot of games.
There's a lot of games. And that's it. I'm going to attach to the end of this a small interview with Steve Medway from Blood on the Clocktower.
Nice.
And we have a chat about Blood on the Clocktower. Its final arrival, because it's been hovering around gaming for quite a long time now.
Long anticipated.
It should be here this year.
Woohoo!
And people can finally play it in a sort of retail home environment that isn't at a trade show or otherwise. So
nice.
That's it. Right. So thank you very much. I've been Chris.
I've been Charlie.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
How do you introduce yourself?
I have no idea. I'm born of the counterculture school where you are not your job, and sort of introducing yourself with a pseudo resume is really, really weird for me. But my name is Stephen. I am the designer of Blood on the Clocktower. I've been designing board games as a hobby for about 10, 12 years or so now, and Blood on the Clocktower is the first really popular game that I've designed that's become a big hit and is going into production. Hopefully the first of many, but I am a Sydney, Australia resident, and I like to try new things. I've been to university and studied a whole bunch of stuff, and then dropped out and lived an interesting life, and you can fill in the blanks since then. And board games is something that I just sort of fell into and found that I was pretty good at. It's a passion. I really enjoy it, and the games I design tend to be pretty popular. And here I am on your podcast, unexpectedly out of the blue.
That's right. Yes, and we if anyone is listening at home right now, they might feel there's like a slightly different energy between us. I've got 9 a.m. energy. I believe you've got sort of 4 p.m. energy.
Oh, really?
Something like that. So I think
that what you think?
Yeah. Well, what time is it there?
No, it is 4 p.m.
Yeah.
It's 5 p.m. It's just that I have not had all of the sleep, so I'm very much feeling 9 a.m. rather.
Are you feel
9 p.m. Take your pick.
Yeah. So we're a whole day apart nearly, So yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about Blood on the Clocktower, mostly I think, which is sort of travelling through the internet over this last year, particularly like wildfire, as people, especially as people were desperate to play something over the internet that they could play over the internet, which I assume isn't how you conceived Blood on the Clocktower.
No, not at all.
It's a sort of I suppose we call it a social deduction game, don't we, at its heart?
That's the term that I've been using, social deception or social deduction. it's not really. Oh God, I'm going to sound like every band that's been interviewed and said and the question is, what genre are you? And they say, well, we don't really fit into a genre. We're really cross genre, and we're doing something avant-garde. It fits into the social deduction genre, but I didn't really design it as a social deduction game. I just designed it as a game, the game that I wanted to play, kind of like a puzzle game, more like an escape room or like a livable mystery novel than a sort of social deduction game. And I deliberately stayed away from other games in the genre because I didn't want to be influenced by them. I just wanted to create something that was my own thing, something unique. But I think it sits firmly in the social deduction genre in terms of you're trying to figure out. You've got good team and bad team, and you're trying to figure out who's on your side and who isn't. Very Werewolf Mafia style. But I've tried to move away from my experience with other social deduction games is that they tend, and again, this is just what I've played, and I haven't played a lot, but they tend to be rooted in calculation and suspicion and those kind of emotions, where I wanted Blood on the Clocktower to be more of a social fun game. But you can play it either way. You can play it as a hardcore social deduction, or you can go straight into party mode and not take it too seriously. So a little bit of both.
It's definitely a very social game, isn't it? In the sense of like, it's got to be full of suspicion, surely. You have to be suspect of some people because there's actually demons amongst you.
Yes. I just didn't want the dominant emotion to be paranoia, anxiety, suspicion, that type of stuff. I wanted it to be. Look at it this way. In a lot of comedy, there's a comedy duo is you have a very goofy character, a very chaotic character, and the straight man, and the straight man provides a bit of counterbalance to makes everything else seem funny because the straight man is the context. So I think with Blood on the Clocktower, the game itself plays it straight. It's a sort of gothic horror setting, and within that setting, sort of goofiness and laughter and team building and trust and mucking around and sort of that it comes out of that type of straight-laced environment. So.
I suppose we should actually introduce the game a little bit.
A demon is on the loose, killing by night and taking on human form by day, and the demon has a cohort of nefarious minions to help them out. All of most of the players are good townsfolk. A couple are outsiders. Townsfolk have helpful abilities. Maybe they get information. Maybe they have a special power, such as the Slayer, who can slay the demon, or the empath, who knows how many evil players they're sitting next to. Whereas an outsider in the game will have an ability that just sucks. You have a lose condition that you need to avoid, otherwise your whole team loses, or you appear to be evil. So it's a game at its core is good versus evil and team building, finding out who's good, finding out who's evil, killing the evil people, hopefully, or destroying the town if you're evil. In one of the big differences, though, is the sort of the outsider and the minion roles, where the outsider you're on the good team, but your ability is just awful. And for the evil team minions, you have very powerful abilities that tend to make the good team's information false or otherwise cause some havoc, but you're expendable, so you can. As long as you protect your demon, you can win the game, but it doesn't matter if you die. So you have this weird dynamic where you have some evil players that don't mind dying, some evil players that do, and same situation for the good team. So I like to phrase it as a gothic mystery puzzle game, but
yeah,
I think that's probably a pretty good overview.
Yeah, and it's also got a wild player count. One of those ones I like, where it's 5 to 20 players.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. So I think, which I always think of as obviously right now in the UK, not something people are doing together in the same room, but lots of people are playing it online. So you mentioned a few of the roles there, I wondered if you could sort of take us through the kind of like narratives that turn up, because it feels sort of like a it's got like a little bit of an improv feeling to it, having these different roles, which are much more different than just like you're in different teams and you don't know who each other is.
Oh, first of all, the improv element is something that's totally up to the players. Like I've seen quite a few videos online, particularly Adam Blampied's No Rolls Barred videos, where they really do they often get into character or really sort of ham it up, and it's a nice touch. But that's not necessary at all. The kind of stuff that happens in the game is usually, if you've got say 7, 8, 9 players sitting around in a circle, the conversation will be usually a little bit tentative at first. You'll have a few players come out swinging, saying, "I am all right. Let's get the ball rolling. I am the fortune teller. Last night I chose Dave and Sally, and I know that neither Dave or Sally is the demon. So I trust Dave and Sally." And then the investigator will say, "Actually, hold up. I'm the investigator. In my investigations last night, I learned that we have a poisoner in the game, and I learned that either the player claiming to be the fortune teller or the player who has claimed to be the saint is the poisoner. So it's quite likely that you're poisoned, and therefore your information is false. So it may very well be the case that either Dave or Jill is the demon, and we should definitely kill them." And then the group will talk, do we believe the fortune teller, and do we believe this information, and therefore we keep Dave and Jill alive? Or do we believe the investigator who is claiming that the fortune teller is lying, or even good and has misinformation? So you end up, and as the game, and then the players will vote on who they think. Yeah, then we'll talk to the other players in question, and they'll have their say, and they'll say, "That's crazy. I'm not the demon. I'm the to use the empath example. I know that one of my neighbors is evil. And if my information is true, then the investigator is lying, because there's no way that there can be that many evil players in the game." So you'll sort of have one or two players that come out with a piece of information related to their character, and then it sort of snowballs, and everyone else will say, "I've got information which corroborates that. The information that I got, I learnt something, and that all paints a pretty damning picture of one or two players, or exonerates one or two players, and then other players will come in and say, "Actually, this seems like it might be true, but drunkenness or poisoning," and for those who are not familiar with Blood on the Clocktower, drunkenness or poisoning, if you are drunk or if you are poisoned in the game, there is a character called the drunk and a character called the poisoner. You do not know that you're drunk or poisoned, and any information that you get is probably false. The storyteller is just lying to you, and your ability doesn't work. You think your ability works, but it doesn't work. So as these stories type to build, like the monk will come out, and the soldier or the mayor or the washerwoman will say, I trust this person completely. Other players will come in and cast doubt, not because they're evil and want to sow confusion, but cast doubt because they have information about who's drunk and who's poisoned, and therefore who's receiving false information. And so as the game progresses, the various players and various characters tend to build up a bit of a story about what happened last night. And the story may go, the monk who is claiming to have protected the virgin is also saying that their ability didn't work, which means they must have been poisoned by the poisoner. But if that is the case, then Evan, who is claiming to be the investigator, is lying, because the characters that Evan said are the poisoner are both dead. So therefore, either Evan is lying or this other player is lying. So as the game progresses, you end up having a shifting worldview of what's true and what isn't, as various characters come out over the course of a game, and it's a ton of fun. If you can lie, generally speaking, if you tell the truth, the story unfolds in a natural way with the execution of the demon. And if you are evil and you are lying, the good players, you have to lie craftily and subtly, and the good players will hopefully believe your lies and execute the wrong people and build up a false story of what happened last night and the previous night and the night before that.
But I like the idea where we've got you just know that people's own personalities are going to come out in the characters that they are given. So being the drunk or being poisoned, if you're a very confident person, you might not even believe that you might, because you don't know you're drunk, do you? So you could then like basically charge on with your theories and attempt to bring the group round in that sort of way that these social games go, where you have a back and forth with people and you sort of have people's actual personalities sort of clashing. I mean, is that the case? Do you have people sort of saying, like, no, you're drunk, and they, that sort of thing?
To a degree, like in any, I think Blood on the Clocktower more than any other game will encourage people's personalities to become a part of the game itself. That is mostly a good thing because there are certain people, as opposed to characters, that tend to be sort of social leaders or social followers. And in games like this, you tend to trust the person that you've always trusted. If Bob is always the one that organizes stuff and is the loudest voice in the room, you tend to do what Bob says, as long as Bob is respected. And in Blood on the Clocktower, Bob will probably be taking a leading role, no matter what his character is. And it's if Bob gets a very powerful character, then the evil team, powerful good character, then the evil team is certainly has cause to sweat some bullets. But the interesting thing is that because evil works in the shadows, you can turn Bob into an agent of into someone who's working against his own interests by acting in the shadows, for example, by poisoning him or by making what's Bob saying sound false. And you can do that. You can do this in the game without it being a personal attack. There are a lot of characters in the game, even good characters, that make other information false or that encourage people to lie. One of my favorite games, as an example of this, is that a lot of new players at the end of the game really find it hilarious when they find out that they were the drunk the whole game, and that's something they certainly play into because they'll spend 45 minutes, with their head in their hands trying to figure out what the hell's going on, absolutely exasperated because they know for certain who the demon is. They absolutely know for certain, and they get to the end of the game and everything that they knew was wrong, and it can be a really humbling experience. And I had one player say, just because you were loud does not mean you are right. And it's so it's you can sort of play the character or you can play the player as well. But what I like about Blood on the Clocktower is that it's more about the game and less about the person. You can have fun with the role, but simple force of personality is not enough to secure a win. You have to work as a team. Everyone's only got a little piece of the puzzle, so you have to work as a team. And something that I've noticed, which is really interesting, you were talking about personalities coming out, is almost the opposite having taken place in a few games, where a player that talks a lot and is quite rambunctious will probably always be like that. But I've had a large number of players that have been very quiet, very timid, didn't want to play the evil play on the evil team, and just like I just want to observe, or I just want to fade into the shadows, and they end up getting a very important role. And if they're good, the other players tend to treat them with respect and really listen to what they have to say, and they become a part of the group, and over a few games sort of gain confidence and open up. I had one player who it was a big 15, 16, 17 player game, might have even been bigger. And she said, I'm terrified if I get an evil character, I don't know what I'm going to do. Can I just have a good character? I said, look, just you get what you get. Just sit down and enjoy yourself. And she said, look, I'm probably not going to say anything. I'm just going to sit by myself. And of course, she gets the imp, the demon, and she single-handedly took. Oh, not single-handedly. She had help from her devious minions. The game went for. That was a long one, probably an hour and a half, and it got to the end, and evil won. And this lady came up to me at the end, and she was sweating, and she looked like she'd just come out of heart surgery, and she said, Steve, that was the greatest experience of my life. Can I play again? And after a couple of games, she just really sort of came out of her shell, and was a lot more drunk, a lot more of the sort of that kind of rambunctious, drunk, confident personality type, even though she started the exact opposite. So yeah, so certain characters really do bring out a person's personality, but it can also go the other way as well, where the exact opposite can happen.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's one of the reasons we play games with new people. Often we play our usual board game group where we have old friends who we speak to a lot. But when we have a new group, playing a game with people is one way to actually connect with people and work out where your actual connections with other people are. And it's only through this sort of overturning of experience, overturning of the things that hold us back, that we get to see what our actual connections are. That person obviously likes you a lot more now. Do you know what I mean? Not that they didn't like you before, but they like you a lot more now because you guys all had this really tight experience together, full of high emotion and things like that.
Yeah.
And it was and actually it was all okay, even though it was probably quite scary at parts. Actually, speaking of being scary, or at least slightly potentially scary, we should talk about how things do go bump in the night in this game, which is I believe everyone closes their eyes when night falls, as one does, and the games master, which I know is the wrong term, invites people to begin their sort of night's work. So can you tell us about, well, firstly, every time there's a game where people have to close their eyes in a group, I think if you can get people to do it, it's magic, because we don't do that around other people normally. It's not something we do very regularly, and so I think something weird happens to the group, and I think it's good. And then, so I don't know if you have any considerations or thoughts about that. And then the other thing is, maybe you could just explain kind of how the bodies start hitting the floor.
Explain how the bodies start hitting the floor.
Yes, that's it.
What sorry, what happens in the actual game physically?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean maybe
right.
Maybe not. Yeah.
It's just out of left field. Awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, with the eyes closed thing, it's people do when something's fun and everyone else is doing it and they see the purpose in it, it's just not a problem. If I was to go up to somebody and say, I want you to close your eyes for 3 minutes, that'd just be really weird. Day phase. There's a day phase and a night phase of the game, and during the day phase, everybody just talks. There's usually a physical circle of players sitting down, and you can have private conversations. When playing face to face, most talking is done in a group, so it's kind of like just a there's the ebb and flow of group discussion about who's what, and I'm the investigator, I'm the mayor, blah blah blah. This is what I know. You're lying, type of stuff. Night phase is where eyes closed. The storyteller just calls, eyes closed, everybody please. And when you can still talk at night as a player, but as the storyteller will have in one hand of the grimoire, which is the game box with all the physical pieces saying which player is which character, which player has which effect, such as drunkenness, poisoning, safe from the demon, that type of thing. And the storyteller will walk around and tap people on the shoulder or on the knee, and that is the signal for eyes open. And there's a couple of other hand signals like nodding, shaking the head, or hand signals of like 0, 1, 2, 3 for numbers, that type of stuff. Pointing at particular players to choose them, that type of thing. And when the storyteller taps the demon opens their eyes, points to a player. The storyteller gives a nod and confirms, and the player goes back to sleep. The next player, sorry, when I say back to sleep, I mean closes eyes again, not literally asleep. Quite boring.
A really organised nap time.
In this game, everyone is really going to sleep and really dying, but it's okay because everyone's really drunk as well. I like that. This is the flip. This is the flip of if you die in the game, you die in real life. But this, sorry, go on. My apologies. That was a silly little diversion there. Yeah, and each player that is due to wake up, it goes through something similar. The fortune teller from before would choose 2 players, so they would point at 2 players and then either get a nod or a shake of the head from the storyteller. And the storyteller, when every player does this, will move little felt back tokens. The grimoire is lined with felt, and the felt sticks to felt. To mark, all right, this player's dead, this player's alive, this player's poisoned, this player is being affected by this character, blah, blah, blah. Call for eyes open and then announce, oh no, Christopher has died in the night. And then totally different Christopher, it's all good. And Christopher is dead and he loses his vote for the rest of the game. But Christopher continues to participate. Christopher's dead. He's a ghost. He hangs around the town and he helps the living players win the game. So that's how the bodies drop.
Excellent. I like that. I think it's on Board Game Geek. What's part of the strap line is "Dead still play," which I think is just a nice way of saying no real player elimination. Although obviously not so good to lose your vote, but do minions still carry on as ghosts as well? Is that right?
Yep. Everyone who dies. What I like to say is particularly when we're doing a game at a convention, a lot of players come in with a fear of dying in the game, because in most games, when you die, you're out of the game, or it's otherwise not fun anymore. So what I like to say is, in Ravenswood Bluff, most of you will die, and this is a good thing, because when you die, you still participate in the game, you still talk, your ability is gone. So if you're the fortune teller from before, you no longer wake to choose 2 players. You learn nothing more. But you still have a vote, you still participate. Most importantly, you still talk. So yes, if you're dead, you might be a dead minion, and continuing to lie for an hour to keep your alive, which is hilarious. And if you're good, your information is the information you got when you're alive is still useful. So you've lost your power, but you haven't lost your ability to work as a team. And the interesting thing is, none of your character is not revealed when you die, unlike a couple of other social deduction games. In Clocktower, it's kept a mystery, specifically so the minions can continue to lie after death. And the interesting thing about the dead is that as the game progresses, because the dead still have a vote, they end up outvoting the living. So a lot of smart players on the final day, there'll be 3 players left alive. One of them will be the demon. And if a lot of smart players won't even be talking to them, they'll be talking to the dead players, because the dead players decide the outcome, because they've got the the voting majority. So just because you're dead doesn't mean it's game over, and it can, in certain situations, you actually want to die. Like the demon can kill themselves to pass on their demonhood to a minion, which makes them look good. So if you're evil and dead and trustworthy, that's even more sometimes more powerful than being alive.
I like that because it contains like kind of like in a sort of very human way, you expect dead people not to have quite strong motives about what they're doing. You sort of kind of expect you would kind of expect the dead to they should be more trustworthy, shouldn't they? Like a ghost should be more trustworthy or something. So this idea that that a trustworthy dead person who's like they're not going to be able to like win the game. Well, they still are, obviously, but like there's something in your head that says, well, no, you kind of lost in some way here, because you were unlucky enough to have died. So I'm going to trust you because obviously you're kind of objective now somehow. But obviously that's not the case. That's obviously not the case.
No, it's often the reverse. Yeah, no, I don't really mind. I actually don't mind player elimination games, but I do mind sitting around for hours for the next game. When you're out early, so it's sometimes what I've found is that people who are not gamers, people who are just like I've run for parties or at festivals or whatnot, and people who are not coming from a gaming background tend to not fear dying as much and just I'm dead. All right, what can I do now? They have more of an optimistic attitude, whereas people who are sort of long-term gamers tend to come in with the expectation that death is game over, or it's sort of game over, where Steve is just saying no, it's not game over because he wants you to feel good, and that does carry over to a lot of players will sort of look at dead players as trustworthy and just good. Oh, you're dead, you must be good, therefore I'll trust you. And there's a local player, Abdullah, who pioneered the talk to the dead strategy, where he would talk to the dead players and he would talk to the new players. And if you were a new player and a dead player, then Abdullah had your undivided attention. And I asked him, why are you doing this? And he said, well, they're new, they're figuring out the game and they need someone to talk to, and I'm that someone, and they're dead. And no one else is talking to them, so I'm going to talk to them. And if I'm good, we can work as a team. And if I'm evil, they vote the way that I tell them to. So yeah, it's a little bit of a hump to get over that. Oh my God, I died. But usually for some players it takes half a game. Some other players it's a game or two. But once you get over that, like a lot of players even just request their own death. They say, look, like kill me for reasons A, B, and C because I'm better off dead. You want me dead so that I can be out of the suspicion pool. Or some characters like the Ravenkeeper are actually trying to die. If the Ravenkeeper can, or the soldier can get the demon to attack them, the Ravenkeeper dies and they learn something when they die. So, death is just not a thing.
When they learn something like that, how does that work? Is that who tells them that? The storyteller.
If you were the Ravenkeeper and I was the storyteller, and Evan was the imp, the demon, everyone has their eyes closed. I would wake Evan. Evan would point to you, because that's Evan's choice. He chooses you. Goes back to eyes closed. Goes back to sleep. You are the Ravenkeeper, and you are now dead. I will wake you up, and I will motion to the rest of the seated people, the rest of the group, and you would go, you would think, all right, I'm the Ravenkeeper. I've just been woken. Storyteller's motioning me to pick a player. You would choose a player. Let's say you choose Amy, and then I would look in the grimoire and I would get Amy's token. In this case, let's say it is the chef. Amy is the chef. I will show you the chef token, and then you would go back to sleep. So Evan killing you has really hurt his own team, and you will wake up in the morning. I will say, and so do you prefer Chris or Christopher?
Chris is fine.
Chris. in the morning I would say Chris is dead, and you would say good news, something like good news, everybody. I died in the night, and I learned that Amy is the chef.
What a cracking bit of news!
Yes, it's awesome, great. Yeah, it's serious. It's great news. I died in the night. This is what I always wanted.
She's the chef,
and Amy is the chef, and now that you know that Amy's the chef, you know you can trust her information unless she's drunk or poisoned, and then Amy and you will be best of friends for the rest of the game. Of course, if you're evil, you can just say that happened. You can just, if you died at night and you're evil, you can just say, I was the Raven Keeper. I learned that Amy was not the chef. I learned that Amy was the spy. We can't trust Amy's information. So
I really like that. And so the way you describe it there, of the way you show, the way you learn information, is all entirely silent at this point. You know, at night things are silent, right?
Yeah.
No one's.
It's all silent. I just didn't want. It's easy to make a slip up when you're talking. Like the initial iteration of the game we would run down a list. We would say, you know, fortune teller, please open your eyes. Something, please open your eyes. And it's easy to say. Well,
I can imagine what I would do, which
is quicker. It's quicker and smoother when it's just silent.
I imagine myself saying something like, "Amy, open your eyes." I mean, fortune teller. Yeah. Whoops! Oh, whoops! The game's ruined. Whoops! There you go.
Amy, please open your eyes. Sorry. I meant the fortune teller. Please open. Okay. Oh, the fortune teller has closed her eyes. Yes. I mean their eyes. Oh, damn it.
Yes. That's right. I can imagine that happening quite a lot. But I like this idea of people sitting around I'm imagining a semicircle. That's what I'm going to go with. And then it's just the thing of everyone having their eyes closed, and then there being this slight rustling and movement in the middle of someone showing people tokens, or someone moving very close to you and tapping the person next to you on the knee and things like that. And just like it's like it's not a usual piece of information you have in a game. I don't think you don't have usually spatial elements in this way. I don't think you think.
It's not really. It's not really a big part of Clocktower either, to be honest. It's that kind of that's pretty common in Werewolf and Mafia, and you can certainly use that information in Clocktower. But there are so many characters, both good and evil, that are waking up that it's pretty unreliable, because just because somebody woke up or just because the storyteller passed close to you doesn't really mean that you're sitting next to an evil player or something like that. So what most players just chat and crack some jokes of a nighttime instead of. But I do sometimes deliberately block the light. If there's an overhead light, I'll just put the grimoire in front of the light so that someone gets a shadow, so it looks like I'm a shadow passing over their eyes. So it looks like I'm standing close to them for some reason, and I'm not. I'm just standing there, not doing anything.
Yeah, I like that. That's a so there's a whole realm of mischief here, isn't there? Which is quite jolly. But so, and that was me there, sort of imagining the physical version of the game. But it's been really popular online, hasn't it? It's been wildly popular over the last.
It's been crazy popular, yeah.
Last, I guess, year or so. For some reason, people have really taken to playing this game online. What's that been like for you? And watching people sort of adapt it.
Painful. I haven't paid a huge amount of attention. Like the level of work required to get a game that's already designed or mostly designed to the manufacturer has proved to be just astronomical. So it's been Ben Burns, who has mostly handled the online stuff, with a little bit of Evan as well. And it's some stuff about Clocktower ports over really well to online play, and some is pretty jank. Like there's quite a few characters that mess with timing or mess with core rules that it's very difficult to simulate in an online setting. And also online has has a lot more because of the technical limitations online. You can't have that that big loud 12 players all talking at once in the physical space, because you can physically pay attention to, like, visually and physically pay attention to different people at different times. And online you can only have one maybe two people talking at once. So it's much more of a game of whispers and having private conversations, and whereas the physical is much more like a party, whereas online is much more, there's a lot more sleuthing. But over the last 12 months or so, online has exploded, and we've had a lot of players have really, really enjoyed online. And online it's a lot easier to create your own, put your own characters together, to create your own scripts. And I've had some really fun games online. It makes me wish I knew how to code as much as I knew how to design something physical, because it'd be so much easier.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Just press the button. You don't have to get anyone to produce some chips for you, do you? What I was thinking about the online section was the online play for the game is that it has the sort of absolutely rock solid whispering function, which is you can text someone on WhatsApp or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that improves things or not. But I think, but I can imagine it's quite useful. Less slip ups, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty useful. It's more on the side of useful. If you've sort of got your etiquette down, it can be very useful and very fun, just jumping into whispers and private conversations. I've got a really slow internet, and it's a little bit awkward for me to do that smoothly. But a lot of players really enjoy it. My personal preference is to have the big group conversation as the main conversation, with the little whispers as a with the players that I'm literally sitting next to. For example, I had one game. There's a character. I said, "Hey, Mariana, this is day one. Mariana, I'm the lycanthrope," and she just whispered back, "You're full of shit, Steve. I'm the lycanthrope." And I trusted her the whole game. And she had no idea. She had no idea that I wasn't the lycanthrope, and she was the demon. And she won the game because of that tiny little whisper at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
That lasted under 5 seconds. I was basically her servant for an hour and a half, and I personally won Mariana the game on her behalf. So having those little whispers can be really, really fun, particularly if you're evil and you can just get a crucial piece of misinformation to the right person at the right time.
That's incredible. What frankly ballsy bluff there as well.
Totally.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, if I was, if she just came out. No, you're full of shit, Steve. I'm the lycanthrope, and because she was just so confident in her role, I trusted her.
Mm.
I went, all right, yeah, no, you're right. I'm not the lycanthrope. I'm this other character. I will tell you everything I know.
That's great. So the question I have to ask every designer, and it's very unfair to ask when someone's Kickstarter is about to land, is I have to ask the tough question of what's next.
What's next?
Yeah. What are you designing next? What are you working on?
That's a great question.
Well, some people say, I'm so tired, don't talk to me about what's next.
Yeah. There's the funny answer or the true answer. The funny answer is a tiny deck of cards that's easy to manufacture. It doesn't cost much.
Yeah.
I've probably got about a dozen games that are all half finished that I would just love to make the next game. The next game is probably going to be, I've got a comedy, mafia comedy game called Goons, which is sort of like a Diamond Heist meets Paper Rock Scissors.
That's great.
Type of game.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Where you've got to you're all goons, and one of you is the boss, and you have to decide amongst yourself who is the boss, who are the goons, who's going on some rest and relaxation, and who's snitching on everybody else. And depending on which roles you take in the game, it's sort of like a fast-paced beer and pretzels card game, about half hour or so. And you've got to get all the diamonds, get all the money, and buy all the cool stuff, and retire in style at the expense of your fellow goons. So that should be a ton of fun. But there's a few Clocktower expansions that have been on the back burner for a couple of years now that are pretty advanced. I'm not quite sure how they'll go. Trouble Brewing is beginner. Most of the other expansions, Batman Rising, Sex and Violence, are intermediate, and I'd like to release at least one advanced edition of Clocktower, because I really think the more hardcore players are really going to enjoy it. There's a lot of very avant-garde stuff that's happening in the advanced edition, and I'd really like to do. And this is the weird one, but. Kids, a game for social deduction game for kids.
Yeah.
I've run Clocktower.
Jam on the Clocktower.
I've run. I want to go pirate themed.
Oh, go pirate themed. Okay.
The plank. Nobody dies. There's no death and no vulgarity or anything of the sort. But people do walk the plank, and then they go splash, and then they're not heard from again. But I've run Clocktower for. I used to take it to a lot of festivals and parties, and sort of any sort of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 just absolutely love it. They're not depending on their intellectual development, they're not quite on the deduction level that a lot of adults are, but they really enjoy the lying aspect, the playful deceive your friends type of aspect. So that's something I would like to do. Pirate themed Blood on the Clocktower that is enjoyable by all ages.
Yeah, that sounds great. I like the idea of using the walk the plank as the equivalent to burn the witch, etc.
Yeah, you walk the plank and you have a nice swim,
yeah.
and that's all that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. Is there anything else you'd like to plug at all? I suppose we should send people to the Blood and the Clocktower website, or the Pandemonium Institute website.
Blood on the Clocktower is the way to go. Pandemonium Institute website's more of a placeholder, but Blood on the Clocktower is the thing.